Hello friends, followers and channel members, welcome back to another video here in Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and once again we find ourselves in Toulouse taking a look at yet another brand new Airbus for the simulator. Yes, IniBuilds Airbus A320 Neo, the version 2 as they're calling it, is now available following the release of Sim Update 15. Now, many of you I know have been asking me about my opinion on this particular aircraft, but I refused to fly it until it was released and no longer in beta, which it now is available for free as well, I might add, which of course puts it pretty much in direct competition with the fabulous FlyByWire A320 Neo. So in this video I am going to be taking an in-depth review of this aircraft and have a look to see just how well it stacks up against the A32NX. Now straight off the bat it's already got one thing going for it that the FlyByWire hasn't, and that is the fact that you can actually fly this aircraft on Xbox. Now if you are an Xbox user of Microsoft Flight Simulator and you are used to flying the traditional original A320 Neo, this aircraft is going to come with a learning curve. Yes, hundreds more features and so much more realistic than the default Airbus A320 Neo. The exterior modelling looks really neat, and there's lots of great little details as well if you look around the aircraft close up. The aircraft also comes with a variety of liveries as well. There's a nicely built cabin which users can enjoy. Accessing this is easy as well through the original flight deck camera. You just open the cockpit door and then you can take a walk around. This also means that setting up custom camera views is relatively easy. There's no real complaints either about the flight deck. This too looks very nice and is indeed a step up from the original Airbus A320 Neo. Features in here also have been added, things like simply being able to open the window, as well as I mentioned earlier, being able to open the cockpit door and have a walk around. Now there are of course some limitations. If you're expecting a fully study level aircraft, well that I'm afraid it is not. While everything is in the right place and looks really neat, lots of what I would call study level and advanced features don't work. Things like the circuit breakers, for example. You can't interact with these and pull them to reset things. This aircraft though does however come with a tablet or EFB, and for those of you who are familiar with the IniBuilds A310, you'll probably notice some similarities. You can use this to interact of course with the ground crew, upload your SimBrief profile and it will all sync together, so you've got your flight route all there at the touch of a button. It comes with a takeoff performance calculator as well, which we'll have a little look at later on in the video, and you can also then use the options page to set everything up as you would wish. I will mention that calibrating the thrust levers and the various detents etc. is incredibly easy, and much easier I found than the fly-by-wire. So the aircraft is part of Sim Update 15. Again, it is free, and in order to get it you just need to go to the marketplace and simply download it. Excited to test it out then, I thought we would do a couple of base training circuits here at Toulouse after setting up the flight management guidance computer and seeing how everything works from an electronics point of view, just to see just how feature and systems rich this aircraft actually is. So one of the first things I noticed is that this A320 Neo is built for perhaps the low-cost carriers. The national carriers usually have first class and business class, usually limiting it to around 150 seats. Not this aircraft. This one could be EasyJet all the way. It also has one of Airbus's newer weather radar units. You'll notice that this is laid out a little bit differently compared to the fly-by-wires and also the Phoenix A320's aircraft. Not only is it more modern, but it does actually work. Now, I use that with a small caveat that it is well known that the default weather radar system in Microsoft Flight Simulator is not actually that realistic or accurate. But for those of you who want to know where the storm cells are, at least you've got some general idea with this aircraft. All the startup sounds, the clicks, the relays, the fans, etc. are all pretty much standard as you would expect. One of the nice things as well with this aircraft is you also do get that triple click that you must listen for before performing the APU or the engine fire tests. You will also notice as well that as the aircraft is setting itself up, you'll get the usual ECAM warnings, which will clear themselves eventually, but it's nice to see them there as they weren't there in the default A320 Neo. Now, one thing I wasn't expecting to find was the fact that both MCDU units, or MCDUs, are actually independent. This is a really nice feature and still something that the Fly-by-Wire team are yet to bring in. Now, they may be independent, but how much functionality do they actually have? Well, to be honest, it turns out quite a bit. I went through putting in a full flight plan just for the sake of it, and it turned out that everything works exactly as you would expect. Of course, you don't have to input your flight route manually. If you use SimBrief, you can use your SimBrief ID and it will import the flight plan just as they do in real life using ACARS. Wanting to continue to test its functionality then, I wanted to see if the fixes page worked, and yes, it does. Means you can pop in your radials and, if you so wish, your flap rings, and the aircraft also auto-tunes to the closest VOR, just like the real world aircraft, the same as the FlyByWire A32NX does as well. It was at this stage I started to realise that actually the MCDU box has pretty much all the functionality of the Fly-by-Wire A32NX. Things like the place bearing distance page, all of that works. The fuel prediction page also works exactly as you would expect it to, but what I didn't expect was this next feature. And this is probably one of the biggest things letting the Fly-by-Wire A32NX down at the moment. Yes, it is the secondary flight plan page. The secondary flight plan page is essential at the start of any flight for popping in things like the engine out procedure, and in this IniBuilds A320 Neo we can actually do this. You can pop in the engine out SIDs as I've done here, set it all up so that if you have an engine failure on departure, then you can get the autopilot in and reduce your workload management. It'll allow you to build up the secondary flight plan engine out procedure all the way, just as you will have seen me do in the Phoenix if you watch this channel regularly, and then it'll be displayed on the navigation display so you can see and check that you've got it all in correctly. Personally, for me, this is a huge bonus over the A32NX, and I know that the Fly-by-Wire team have been working hard on their FMS version 2 system, which will bring that feature into the Fly-by-Wire A320, but we now currently have it in the IniBuilds version 2 A320 Neo, so really nice that we've got this, because this also then comes with another little feature. And again, I know this is a huge feature that many of you do miss in the A32NX, and that is the go around procedure. Yep, all of these waypoints in blue form the go around procedure, which is coded into the navigation database, and there you can see it on the navigation display. Again, if you're familiar with the Phoenix A320, this is as standard, just like the real world aircraft. Again, having this in this aircraft is a huge bonus in the result of a go around. So next then, I wanted to check out how realistic the performance calculator was for the takeoff in this IniBuilds A320. Now, of course, Airbus guards the takeoff performance calculations of their Neo aircraft very, very carefully. So a lot of this is going to be educated guesswork. So I've got this all set up. We're going to compare it with SimSmart, and then we're also going to compare it with a real life comparison. So these are the V-speeds that I've got for my takeoff here under current conditions. We then put the exact same conditions into SimSmart, which is an A320 performance calculator, link in the video description down below, and you can see that there is quite a big difference between the two in terms of V-speeds and flex. However, which one is closest to real life? Well, there you can see on screen, SimSmart to the left, the IniBuilds calculator in the middle, and real life figures on the right hand side. You'll see SimSmart is around 3 to 4 knots out and 4 degrees on the flex. However, the IniBuilds takeoff calculator is much further out than that. Around 10-11 knots out on the V-speeds and 11 degrees on the flex. Now, obviously, no takeoff performance calculator is going to be 100% accurate, aside from, of course, the real thing, which Airbus aren't going to give us flight simulator enthusiasts, sadly. But if you are looking to get closer to realism, then SimSmart is a takeoff performance calculator, which will also provide you with the engine out procedures as well. So do go and check that out if you want to take your simulator to the next level. So perhaps now then on to the more important stuff. How does it actually handle? Well, on the ground it taxis under idle thrust, which is realistic as per the real world. Sadly though, the terrain doesn't actually work on this aircraft. Of course, it does work on the Fly-by-Wire, but not here in the IniBuilds. Now, one of the things I would love to hear from you guys on, if you have flown this aircraft, was the takeoff roll. For me, it seemed to be very slow. It took a long time for us to get up to 100 knots, and I was only doing base training, so I wasn't particularly heavy. I did wonder at some point, am I actually going to run out of runway? I'd set quite a high flex because, well, I went for the real world calculations just to see how it went. Maybe that's one of the reasons why the flex in the performance calculator from IniBuilds on the tablet was much lower and closer to toga, because it needed that thrust to get up. But I'd love to hear how you guys have found this. When actually lifting off then, like normal, I went to follow the flight directives, but the flight directives were giving me some very misleading information. Wanted me to point the nose almost down towards the ground to try and chase those flight directors, at which case I wasn't happy and decided we'll just disregard those altogether for the time being, because I didn't want to fly level. I wanted to fly with a positive rate of climb. That way we can get the gear up and begin the circuit. The overall handling of the aircraft, the auto thrust, etc., and all the FMAs worked exactly as you would expect them to, so certainly nothing out of the ordinary there. In fact, it was quite nice to fly. Very much a fly-by-wire aircraft, so the team have got that nailed on. Whilst flying around, I was having a little bit of a play with things and found that they've also included the cockpit door camera, which actually, that picture looks very, very clear in its resolution. Alright, so how did the aircraft handle when it was landing? Well, to be honest, this actually disappointed me. At 30 feet, I let go of the side stick just to see that nose lower, and it didn't. The aircraft should lower the nose once it gets to 30 feet, and the pilot will just pull back on the side stick to have a natural feel for the flare, but you didn't have to. I let go of the side stick, cut the thrust, and the aircraft just continued to float a little bit before eventually dropping down onto the ground. So something I think characteristic wise of the aircraft has been missed there. And the way that the fly-by-wire team have got their A32NX to fly and handle, they are quite rightly very proud of the way they've done that, because it is very realistic. I would say then personally that I think that the overall handling and modelling of the airframe itself is much more realistic in the A32NX than it is the IniBuilds A320 Neo. But again, this is something I'd love to hear comments on from you guys in the comments down below, so please do let me know what you think about comparing those two. After trying this aircraft out for a few circuits and then actually coming to present and make this video, I asked myself the question, which aircraft do I prefer? Do I prefer the A32NX, or do I now prefer the IniBuilds A320 Neo version 2? And I'll be really honest with you, I found it very difficult to choose. Both have huge pros and cons. The biggest pro of the new IniBuilds A320 Neo is the flight computer. It has got so many more features in it, features which are really important, and features which the fly-by-wire team have been promising us for quite some time. Now, of course, it's not their fault. They are simply a team of developers who are doing wonderful things for the flight simulator community and have done ever since the A320NX was released. But they are just volunteers, a great team of devs dedicating their time for free for us here in Microsoft Flight Simulator. So the fact that things may have gone off the boil there means that we can't really hold it against them. Let's face it, their professional careers are far more important than the freeware stuff they provide for us. That said though, I much prefer the aircraft handling of the fly-by-wire A32NX over the IniBuilds A320, as we saw on departure as well. Little things like the flight directors not giving correct information is quite a little bit off-putting. In a perfect world, we would have the fly-by-wire's aircraft handling and systems depth, and we would have the IniBuilds A320 flight management computer. Over to you guys then though, I'd like to know right here and now, which is your favourite freeware A320 Neo aircraft to now fly in Microsoft Flight Simulator? Please do let me know in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you have enjoyed the video, and of course if you have, please don't forget to leave a like. Also, if you're not yet a subscriber, then please do hit the subscribe button and turn on the notifications bell so you don't miss any future videos or our live streamed flights. A special reminder as well that you can now get 10% off all your orders on the Contrail store for Microsoft Flight Simulator using our special discount in the link description below. Thanks for watching. I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye for now.